Good morning, everybody. This is Dave, the crypto consultant, coming to you from New Orleans, Louisiana. This morning is Tuesday, March 23rd, and the current time is 7:26 Central Standard Time in the United States. That would be 0726 UST -6. Now, I want to bring something to your attention today because I want you to see where we're going as a society, as a culture, as a world culture. Um, this is Polkadot I'm going to be talking about. Now, Polkadot is a company. Polkadot is a cryptocurrency. And I want to show you what you can expect coming up in the next 10 to 20 years. Okay, let's just dive right in here. All right, Polkadot is a platform, as they're touting it on their website. They're calling it a platform for Web3. Okay, what is Web3? All right, imagine the old internet that most of you are familiar with, the old ways of doing things, going back to AOL, the invention of Facebook, Google, those kinds of things. That is like Web 1 or Web 1.0, Web 1.2 possibly in some cases. But these visionaries, I call them, these kinds of technology companies, the people involved, they're now discussing what they term as Web 3.0. Okay. Now, the way that they see the future of technology is that, in general, the universe of the internet, which, and let me just stop and say this real quick. Now, I have been asked, well, what if they shut down the internet? What happens to things like Bitcoin and online banking, those kinds of things? Well, and this is my opinion to some extent, but I think I could prove it. There's no entity out there that could shut down the internet, so to speak. And the reason I say that is because the internet is not in one place, okay? Even though you have large facilities such as Google has a $1 billion building that they built in Reno, Nevada. They don't own the internet. They don't run the internet. What they do is they collect data from the internet for the most part. Now, the internet is made up of millions of nodes. These nodes are generally network servers, and they're linked together by a multiplicity of transmission routes. And all over the world, you have these nodes. This is what we know as the universe of the internet. Now, you combine that with things like 5G technology, you combine that with fiber optic technology, satellite technology, communications technology, and literally in the world today, we are surrounded by what would be an atmosphere, so to speak, of information, and that information has a lot to do with technology and a lot to do with communications and a lot to do with the collection of data. Now, what Polkadot is trying to do is to enter into that ecosystem, that environment, with some new thoughts about trading data and information. I want to just show you some key people here. Now, again, as I've mentioned before, most of these tech startup guys are these are best of class type people. They have superior skills when it comes to technology. Now, the one in the middle here, he would be considered a senior in the tech world, especially in the cryptocurrency world. Dr. Gavin Wood is the founder of Polkadot. Okay, he was one of the members of the original Ethereum team back with Vitalik Buterin when they created Ethereum. And I've listened to a couple of talks that he's given. This guy is he's a visionary. He's a futurist. He is one of the people that you'll be hearing about in the future. Like today, you hear about people like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. Well, there will be others that will take their places, and probably Dr. Gavin Wood has a good chance of being one of those players in that world of technology. And so he was the co-founder of Ethereum. Now he coined the term Web 3.0. He serves as the president of something called the Web3 Foundation. And the Web3 Foundation recently met in Ibiza, which is rather interesting. Now, I have been to Ibiza, and I can tell you it is a fabulous place in many respects. The corporation or the company that owns Polkadot is located in Zug, Switzerland, Z-U-G, Switzerland, Zug. Now that may not mean much to most Americans, but Zug is one of these kinds of places on earth where if you have a good idea and you want to find financing, you want to find support, you want to find talent, in Zug, Switzerland, that is available. Now, the unique thing about Zug, Switzerland is there is a fabulous champagne that is called Zug, and that's where it's made. It's notable for that, but it's also a high-tech startup environment. It's the Silicon Valley, I guess you would call it, of Switzerland. Now, Switzerland is one of the world's wealthiest countries. You have individuals there who have had money and are in the money business and are multi-billionaires living in Switzerland. The banks in Switzerland are historically notable for having huge deposits, and that goes through probably the last 200 years at least. Just to point out here, we've got Peter Zabin, technology director of Web3, and I mean, when you read these guys' CVs here, he has a Master's of Engineering at Oxford. Okay, a Master's of Engineering from Oxford University. Robert Habermeyer. Now he is a co-founder. He has a background in blockchain, distributed systems, cryptography, which, by the way, the reason they call cryptocurrencies, what they call them, cryptography, was the beginning of cryptocurrencies. In other words, cryptography being codes or puzzles or some means of communication using a code is what cryptography is, and that dates back, many centuries, but probably most prominently during World War II, when cryptographers in England, for instance, were deciphering coded messages from the Germans. So cryptography, that is a very esoteric thing for someone to be an expert in. Okay, so you look at, first of all, what is Polkadot trying to do here? Well, what they envision is that the world, as we know it, is going to be more or less a data exchange. That data will flow freely from one place on earth to the other in milliseconds. Okay, not sending a letter. If you go back, to the past, you send a letter, it takes, I don't know how long, maybe up to 7 days, for instance, for a letter to go from the US into Europe. What these people are talking about here, and this is notable, is a free flowing matrix of data that can be transmitted immediately. Now, this all involves what we know as the internet. As the internet gets better, as it gets thicker with more connections, we are living inside a matrix of data. And you personally, or as a person, have data associated with you, a tremendous amount of data associated with you. And all of this is available. It is all being processed by server centers and that kind of thing. Now, what does that have to do with cryptocurrency? Okay, the Polkadot, DOT is the symbol, DOT. Polkadot is an open source cryptocurrency. And let me just give you some language here, because this gets off into the semantics of what these people are talking about. And when you hear them speak, they use these words quite often, and unless you've ever been exposed to it, you might get lost in the translation. I don't really know enough to tell you what some of these terminologies mean, but for instance, they speak of a relay chain, okay? Parachains, parathreads, bridges. They talk about something called nominators, validators, collators, and even the term fisherman, which is a very interesting little term there. Now, these are the kinds of things you're going to be hearing about. Now, just to give you my read on where things are going, okay, we're talking about, look at here, groundbreaking technology. Okay, that's what they claim is groundbreaking technology coming out of Zug, Switzerland, coming from the co-founder of Ethereum, coming from a consensus group called the Web 3.0 Foundation. What they are describing to you is what is to come, and this will be what you're going to start to see in the news. You're going to start hearing about this kind of thing. My opinion about it is that the old ways of doing things, like for instance, money, the idea of currencies that are backed by a central government, for instance, the US dollar backed by the US government through the Federal Reserve would be a perfect example. The euro linked to the European Central Bank. When you're talking about this kind of technology, you don't need a central bank. Okay, there's no reason for it even to exist, and that is somewhat threatening to the governments of the world. Now, right now, what I can see is that the Federal Reserve Chairman just came out and put down Bitcoin, saying it was nothing more than a speculative investment. Well, that Federal Reserve Chairman needs to get over to Europe, to Russia, to Asia, and take a look around, because things like Bitcoin are huge, and many billionaires that have a substantial portfolio of stocks already and land holdings and other things are parking their money in Bitcoin. And we can see that from the action on Bitcoin, which I've covered in former broadcasts. We can see these whales, we call them whales, people with large amounts of assets buying into things like Bitcoin. So as far as money goes, now, do you need money if you can transmit value? Let's just take value as a concept. What is value? Well, let's just say it represents work. Generally speaking, that's what it does. It represents a created product, a piece of work, something that has the term value applied to it. Well, you can transmit value with a cryptocurrency very quickly, very discreetly, very easily from one person to another or one entity to another, and it does not involve a central government in any way. It does not involve a bank in any way. And so this whole blockchain technology is expanding and getting broader, and the governments of the world are becoming less relevant now. When these types of people get together, I'm not saying they're elitist. I'm not saying they're on the level of, say, Dr. Evil or anything like that. But they simply don't take into account governmental authority when they make plans. Now, during this conference in Ibiza that I'm referring to, these people are discussing what is going to be the next generation of the internet, the next generation of exchanging value, the next generation of what the rules are about exchanging value. And these innovators, these thought leaders, I like to call them visionaries, because I think, in a sense, that's what they are. Now, they talk in this article, which is on Cointelegraph, the go-to source for any kind of information on cryptocurrencies, by the way. Decentralized finance. Okay, they call it DeFi. All right, so DeFi is a form of trading value, trading cryptocurrencies, trading ideas, trading contracts, trading agreements between one entity and another without going through a court system or a governmental office or asking permission. It simply happens outside of those things. Now, there is no one government, even though we think that they are all powerful in some sense, but there is no one government, there's no one world government, for instance, that can control any of this. There may be attempts, I'm not saying there won't. China, for instance, has some controls on things like Bitcoin and so forth, and they do that mainly because they have absolute power. But in the countries where people are more free, they don't have any imposition of government on them. So governments, in a sense, are becoming irrelevant. Now, I know that may sound shocking to you, but it's true. From the way I see it, it's true. That's my opinion only, okay? I envision that what's going to happen is we're going to have, we are currently experiencing what I would call a second renaissance. Now, the first renaissance would have been Italy in the 15th century, where you had so much of technology increasing at such a rapid rate, and you can look at inventors like Leonardo da Vinci, who were key people in their time of expanding the thinking level of what was currently available. The famous architect Brunelleschi, who built the dome on the Florence Cathedral, for instance. Michelangelo, a genius, a prodigy artist, appears on the scene during the Italian Renaissance. Well, these kinds of people are still around, and today, not only in the arts and the science and the academic world, but in the commercial tech world, you're starting to see thinkers, people who are questioning the way of doing things, people who are saying, well, maybe, what we've done in the past, trading dollars for euros, doesn't make sense. Like, why should we have to do that? Why should we have to go to a bank and trade one currency for another? Now, that's not saying that won't go on for a very long time. I think for much of the population, they will resist this type of technology. And that's why I call people like these guys, all right, when I show their picture, where did they go? I'm sorry, I lost them. Um, I call them disruptors. Okay, they are disruptors, and the reason I say that is because when you go in and you change something profoundly important to people, like the way that they exchange value, and I don't use the term money. Okay, money to me is more or less currencies like the euro, the Japanese yen, the Australian dollar, the US dollar. Trading value, trading value along with a smart contract where you can, let's say for instance, you wanted to hire a legal firm and that legal firm happened to be in France and you are in America. Well, you could simply send them one of these packages of cryptocurrencies, and it would contain all of the details about what's expected of them as far as the work they're doing and what you're going to pay for it, and specifications that could be very valuable in stuff like international trade, where you may have a company in India that could be selling something as simple as clothing, for instance. You order 5,000 sarongs, let's just take that as an example. You are going to operate an Indian clothing store in America, and you could do that all using cryptocurrency. You do not need to wire money. You do not need to mail anything. You wouldn't even need to email them. You can communicate on this type of network, on this type of thing, the Polkadot network, Web 3.0. Now, the name is Polkadot, and the crypto that runs along with it is just called DOT or DOT. All right, DOT, the cryptocurrency. Now, these guys on their website, they have, I do want to point out to you that this is, when you talk about a cryptocurrency, you're going to find that nearly every one of them has something called the white paper. Now I'm just going to zoom in here and show you a white paper for a cryptocurrency. This is the heart of the cryptocurrency. This is a peer-reviewed, very thoroughly thought out scientific paper is what a white paper is. So it should contain no, well, of course, no misspellings or anything, but the ideas in here have been tested. Like, they have been thrown out into the community and said, okay, here's what we're talking about. And then there's feedback from other experts in the field. Now look at the description alone. Okay, Polkadot, vision for a heterogeneous multi-chain framework. Okay, now if you went into a hardware store and said, I'd like a heterogeneous multi-chain framework, I mean, they would not even know what you were talking about. Dr. Gavin Wood, founder of Ethereum and Parity, by the way. Parity is another crypto out there. Now you notice here his email address, gavin@parity.io. I have mentioned to you before that .io is the preferred URL for most cryptocurrencies. So he talks about in his abstract, and this is readable. It's probably not on the third grade level, I'll say that. I mean, this is more like something that you would produce in a PhD program. Okay, so what he's talking about is present blockchain architectures. Now, blockchain generally has been in existence since the founding of Bitcoin. We go back to 2009 for that, and so we have some history there. Not a lot of history, but there is the old way of doing things, and there is a new way of doing things. And when he says present day blockchain architecture, he's talking about things like Ethereum, Litecoin, and a multiplicity of other cryptocurrencies that are currently using what we call the blockchain. Now, this is a very, very detailed document, and it goes on for pages and pages and pages, and I don't want to bore you to death by reading that. I just want to point out, though, that most cryptocurrencies do have a white paper associated with them. Okay, so we look at Cointelegraph. We're starting to see quite a few articles about Polkadot. Now, Polkadot has risen quite significantly in value. And keep in mind that when you talk about these kind of technologies, like everything that you hear about today, for instance, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these are the kinds of ideas that these people discuss openly. And by the way, I do want to mention this because I think it's important to learn, is that when you get into the high-tech cryptocurrency world, the world of these tech players, the world of the Polkadot founders, these guys are not what you would call, like, for instance, 19th century inventors, where they felt like there was a certain amount of secrecy associated with an invention. For instance, take an inventor that might invent some device, like a piece of engineering equipment, possibly a pump or a generator or some kind of thing. Back in the old days, there was always this, oh, I can't tell anybody about my idea because they may steal it. Well, as ironically, when it comes to these thinkers today, they fully welcome people to take their product, which is the Polkadot protocol, and to use it and to customize it and to take full advantage of their Polkadot network. Okay, they want people to interact with it. They want people to learn more about it. They want people to develop things within the Polkadot ecosystem, and they don't have like an entry fee for that. You can absolutely create a free cryptocurrency if you know what you're doing, using Polkadot's architecture, and you can do a fork, or you can copy that crypto into another name and make a new one out of it. Now, you can also just use DOT for many purposes, but my point is here that this is a new generation. This is a new way of thinking. We are in a new renaissance of technology, and you're going to see more and more of it. And basically, within this matrix of the internet, which is huge, it is gigantic, it's much bigger than you probably realize. It's not just a way to get Netflix on your TV. It's not just a way to send an email anymore. That goes back to the 1980s, okay? That's antiquated technology by today's standards. What these visionaries are looking into is, how do we take this vast matrix of data, this vast matrix of information, people all over the world connected, and you just think about one simple concept. Normally, on a cryptocurrency project, you would have, say, for instance, Dr. Wood in Zug, Switzerland. He could easily work with a team, and he does, all over the world. There are quite a few players in the cryptocurrency world. In India, for instance, it would be simple to communicate with a team in India, or another hotspot for cryptocurrency technology is Seoul, South Korea. Quite a few innovators there, and companies and firms and things that are doing cryptocurrency work. Why not have your team partially in India, partially in Seoul, Korea, South Korea, partially in, let's say, a country like Estonia, that's also on the forefront, Tallinn, Estonia. There are many, many computer programmers and people that are into the internet living there. Also, I want to mention Ireland, um, Cork, Ireland, the home of Blizzard. If you know anything about computer games, you've probably heard of Blizzard Entertainment is in Cork, Ireland, and Cork, Ireland is the University of Cork, for instance, has a PhD in blockchain technology. There aren't that many PhDs in blockchain. Okay, that's just something that's so new that the academic world is finally getting their hands around it. So, without boring you anymore, let me just show you on today's coin market cap. Now, if you want to see where the standing is on any day, hour, 24/7, 365, go to coin market cap, and this shows you the current status of all cryptos. Okay, well, at least the ones that trade, I think they say the ones that trade over uh, $100,000 per day in volume. Okay, so you get down to the bottom of coin market cap and you start to see some of these rare, like Thor chain and Celsius, and let me just pick a few here. Some that I've seen before. Ontology. I happen to be a big believer in ontology, and it's number 83 on the list. Digibyte, another one that I purchased a long time ago. Digibyte and ontology have certain aspects to them that make them useful and interesting. Bitcoin Gold was a fork off of Bitcoin years ago. It's not anywhere near the price of Bitcoin, but it did come from the seed of Bitcoin itself, and there's several of these forked coins or tokens or whatever you want to call them that came from Bitcoin originally, trying to get around the limitations of Bitcoin. And I'll point something out to you here in just a second. Okay, so Bitcoin, number one. Why is it number one? Well, the reason is it has the largest market cap. Now, last week when I was reporting on Bitcoin, we were at 1,017,000,000 in the amount of market cap. Since then, we've grown another, what would that be? Well, at least $1 billion. Actually, I think it's much more than that. I think it's grown significantly more since it was last week in market cap. Now, there's a lot of money flowing in to Bitcoin from wealthy investors. I mentioned yesterday in my report, Morgan Stanley Bank is opening Bitcoin up to their highest level clients, the wealth management class of customer, where they can transfer some of their assets, whether they be dollars or stocks or whatever, mutual funds, for instance, into Bitcoin. Ethereum, number two, it has a pretty strong standing. And the reason for that, if you've ever wondered, okay, Bitcoin's the oldest of the cryptocurrencies. Now, Ethereum is, the reason that it is so significant, Vitalik Buterin, the Russian genius mathematician and computer programmer, invented Ethereum along with, by the way, this guy in the middle here, Dr. Gavin Wood, and Ethereum is an open source protocol. Now, I personally have written a cryptocurrency, okay? I did that in 2016. And the way that I did it was I went to something called GitHub, GITHUB. GitHub is a repository for computer programming language. You can download very simply and easily the Ethereum E20 protocol. That was the original language that was written by Vitalik Buterin and Dr. Gavin Wood. They do not charge you for that. They do not care if you use it. In fact, they want you to use it and experiment with it. Now, this is a transition in thinking from the old capitalistic version of things where a company, if they had some kind of asset like that, an intellectual asset, they would try to charge for it or guard it as a secret or to keep it away from their competition. These modern technology companies don't think like that. They want people to engage with them, to experiment with them, to try to improve the system. It is a different way of thinking, and so you can create your own Ethereum token, and you can put your name on it. In fact, you could make your token with your name and distribute it on the Ethereum network, and you could send it to your friends and it would drop right into their Ethereum wallet. Some of these others, Binance Coin, I'll do a story on later. Tether is what we call a stable coin. It is always worth $1. Okay, that I call it a parking place, and the reason I call it that is because if you were in the Bitcoin, let's say you had some money invested in Bitcoin and it reached a peak, like it went up to, as it was the other day, $60,000 last Saturday morning, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, where it topped out at 60,000. Let's say you had bought it at a lower price. I don't know what that would be, but let's just say you bought it, for instance, at $10,000 and you wanted to take profit. One way you do that in the crypto world is you convert that Bitcoin to Tether. Now, there are other stable coins, and one of them that I'm going to do a story on is called DAI, D-A-I. The reason you convert it into a stable coin is because then it doesn't change value temporarily. As long as it's in Tether, it's not going to change value. Now, we did a story on Cardano, and you can see it's number 5. Yesterday it was number 3. These, in this range, you've got several that are vying for that third place position. Now, none of them are anywhere close to Ethereum, and especially not close to Bitcoin when it comes to market cap. But Polkadot, and this is why it's important, Polkadot has risen through the ranks. It has beat out Ripple. It has beat out Litecoin. It is creeping up the ladder. And one of the reasons, I think, is because it has a lot of public recognition. And the public recognition is primarily because it is considered to be the second Ethereum. Dr. Gavin Wood made that very clear when he gave his lecture at the Ibiza conference that I mentioned earlier. Polkadot currently trades at 35.46. All right, it's down a little bit, but then all cryptos are down across the board today. So we see these price statistics. They go up and down, and I refer to it as 2 steps forward and 1 step back. The trading volume, however, on Polkadot, despite the fact that it's a $35 price, we're looking at over that would be $2 billion in the last 24 hours. Imagine having $2 billion go through your bank account in 24 hours. These things, people like the older generation, for instance, would say, well, I don't believe in that. I don't buy it. I don't think that it's anything more than just some kind of computer game or some kind of made up investment that doesn't have any value to it. Well, let me ask you this. If it doesn't have any value to it, why would people be trading over $2 billion in it in the last 24 hours? That's remarkable. That is a huge amount of money. Now, the market cap on Polkadot is roughly around 37 billion. That's kind of a moderate amount for the sort of second tier cryptocurrencies, but it's respectable, very respectable. And Polkadot's symbol again is DOT. Now, before I bore you to death talking too much, I am going to look at the price performance on Polkadot, because this is where you can tell, folks, is when you look at the the whole crypto market, there are literally thousands. I don't even know the count on them. Okay, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, and the ones that I'm talking about are the ones that are the leading horses in the race. These are the ones that are vying for those top tiers. These are the ones that the old line crypto investors. If you took an example of the Winklevoss brothers, the original founders of Facebook. Yes, no, Mark Zuckerberg did not found Facebook. A lot of people think he did, but no, it was actually the Winklevoss twins, as they're known. Two very wealthy people. They took their money that they got from Zuckerberg and put it straight into Bitcoin, and they have been considered major players in the cryptocurrency world since they did that, and that goes back to the 1990s, I believe, when Facebook first appeared on the scene. You may remember prior to that, there was MySpace, which was a similar type platform. Nobody really knows or understands what happened to MySpace, but it was a customizable Facebook type thing. The Winklevoss brothers started off with Facebook mainly in universities. It was used as a way to share pictures among your friends in universities. They sold that to Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg became the chief executive officer of Facebook at that point, and the Winklevoss brothers went off and invested their money in Bitcoin and other things. Now, another major player in the crypto world, and I'll just mention this, is a man named Max Kaiser, who, along with his wife for many years, have been financial commentators. Max Kaiser, I can remember back in the 90s, was touting Bitcoin when it was like probably about $125. And he said, I'm buying all the Bitcoin I can at $125 because it's going to go up. Well, who had any idea that it would hit $60,000 at that time? Now, people who are on the forefront of thinking, for instance, these guys, like I'm talking about, they are the ones, excuse me, I have a phone ringing that is very inconvenient. Okay, so getting back to what I'm talking about, looking at DOT. For a long time, DOT has been trading somewhere in the $4 mark. And this is typical of these things. So, I'm not trying to bore you every time I come on here saying that, but if you look down here at the history of Polkadot, since its creation, the Genesis coin for Polkadot is what this red line's all about. That's where that was created. August 2020, the 18th of August of 2020. That seems like a long time ago in the crypto world. Now, since that point, going to December of 2020, so that was just a 4-month period, it remained in this $4 to $5 range. Now, this is the period of time when the founders are doing their marketing. They're doing their they travel to groups. They do TED Talks. They have conventions in Ibiza. They invite other highly intellectual people in the fintech world to come into the scene and give them support or criticism. And they openly welcome that. It works much like the old-fashioned scientific community in the crypto world. So we get to around Christmas time 2020. This would just be our past Christmas. Look at this. Okay, all of a sudden we have here a breakout, and these breakouts are very typical among some of these things. So now I use something called an oscillator. The reason I use that, I monitor these trigger points. You have buy and sell trigger points on this yellow line. Now, whenever that yellow line, which I believe represents a 30-day moving average, or it could possibly be less than that, it could be a 10-day moving average or even shorter period of time. When the trading volume goes up, and you can see the blue here, that is trading volume, and the price activity, which is represented by this green line. Now, that's not direct price activity. That's what's called a stochastic price activity. That measures more than just the price. That measures the velocity of trading and so forth. As money is coming into one of these things, this oscillator indicates that for us. So it is kind of a tool that we can use to tell what the investment world is doing when it comes to the asset. Now, the asset is DOT, okay, DOT-Polkadot. So we had Christmas. We started to get some activity. We had a few drops along the way, but not much. If you had put money into Polkadot at $4 at Christmas of 2020, you would have an asset worth $35. So just do the quick math on that. That would be, generally speaking, if we took 35, and let's just take 5, of course, then you would have 7 times your money since Christmas of last year. Okay, Christmas right here. And then today we are at March 23rd. So you would have, in that short period of time, 7 times your original money. So if you had put $1,000 in here, you would have $7,000 up here. This is not uncommon. This is typical. This is the way cryptocurrencies trade. And for people who are used to the stock market, there is a certain amount of fear of these things because of that. Now, the Fed chairman came out and said that he thought cryptocurrencies were entirely too volatile. Well, they are volatile, but one of the reasons that they're volatile is because they react quickly to the market, whereas certain things like, for instance, bonds, stocks, a lot of stocks, some are quicker than others, but generally speaking, those are turtles or slow-moving assets in comparison to cryptocurrencies, which, just to give you an example here, if we were to zoom in on this chart, and let's just go ahead and change it to, well, that was the 15-minute chart, but we could take a look at even down to the second. We could change this interval of time, and what happens then is you start to see the trades themselves going on, and you can see them very quickly. It's quite interesting to monitor that activity. Now I'm afraid I have disturbed my chart, so I'm going to go back to the 15-minute or even the 1 hour possibly to give you a better picture here. Okay, so looking again at DOT, we are seeing this trading range where it is somewhat leveled out into the $35 range. Okay, that is a huge increase from, as I said, from Christmas, which we were seeing that price range in the $4 to $5. Now we're seeing it in the $35 range consistently. You see there are trades in here. The candlesticks are showing the intervals of trades, and we are getting activity. There's a lot of volume going on, and we can check that by going back to the Polkadot listing here on CoinMarketCap, and we can see that total market cap's roughly 37 billion, and then trading volume is over 2 billion a day. Now, the market dominance factor, okay, when you talk about market dominance, what that means is what percentage of these cryptos that trade over 100,000 a day does the Polkadot asset make up? Well, according to volume, it's only 1.89%, which is very low. Okay, that's that's not anywhere near Bitcoin. Which, if we were to look at Bitcoin, what you're going to see there is a huge market dominance of 59.80%. So Bitcoin by far is the granddaddy. It is the king of cryptocurrencies. Now, I'm going to say this again. If you have profits that you have made through trading, for instance, in some of the altcoins, ALT, as we call altcoins, if you have made profits, you can diversify by buying into some of these other new cryptos, like for instance Polkadot, which I do think, just looking at what their thought process is here, what their community is here, at the way that they're trying to pull together technology companies, the way that they're trying to create what essentially is going to be a new world upon us very shortly. And I do reference often the Tofflers, who wrote not only the book Future Shock, but a book called The Third Wave, or The Fourth Wave. Was it the third or the fourth? I'm sorry, I don't remember. But they predicted, because they were futurists, and they predicted that there would be this coming revolution, this coming renaissance of technology, and it is people like this that are producing that new reality. And they do have a thought process that is unlike the past generations. Okay, there's no brick and mortar in any of this. There's no equipment other than, say, for instance, computer equipment. But to start a technology company, you all you need is brain power. Basically, brain power is the one most valuable asset, I think, in this Renaissance era that we're in now. Are these kinds of people that have no relation to the old way of doing things. They don't even acknowledge things like governmental oversight. They don't acknowledge things like, for instance, going into a bank to borrow money. They would simply sell off some of their Bitcoin and finance the whole thing themselves. So we have a new host of leaders. I think that they're good people in general. Now, my interaction with these people on certain things like Telegram, where you can actually talk to them, is that they're very open and approachable. Unlike innovators of the past, where they might be secretive or shy from public interaction, for some reason, these new members of this coming renaissance, these new guys, they're mostly young. Some of them are a little bit older. There's Dr. David Wood right there. Oh no, that's him, I'm sorry. They are younger, and they're very smart, And I think they are enthusiastic about what they see as a different world than what we've lived in the past. And this stretches into all kinds of technology, many technologies that we don't know yet that will be on the scene, digitizing things like physical objects, allowing companies to sell products from one part of the world to the other with no restrictions, a free flow of ideas, the interchange of ideas between the academic community, for instance, and the marketing community, the invention of new products, the invention of new technology, and it is a huge revolution. I call it the second Renaissance. Now I don't know if I coined that term or if other people call it that, but that's literally what it is, and I'm very excited about it myself. Personally, I think that cryptocurrencies are just the tip of the iceberg. It is opening up not just a way to exchange money or value or to send money. It is opening up a way to send ideas. It is opening up a way to send data. It is opening up a way to reach people in the far corners of the world. When you think about it, all you need is access to the internet in order to participate. And with the 5G network, places like Central Africa will have the same kind of internet that you may have in a big city. So perhaps there is a remotely located person out there who's just a young child right now, and they may get into the technological world and create a business, a corporation in some place like Tanzania or Zambia. That's perfectly possible with this kind of technology. Now, I could go on and on about this, but I don't want to bore you to death. I do want to thank you very much, though, for watching. I am David Dillard, the Crypto Consultant. I'm on YouTube as David Dillard, the Crypto Consultant. I also have a page on Facebook called the Crypto Consultant. I would appreciate anyone who sees this to go to that page and like it. The more followers that I can get, the more I can do as far as pushing the envelope a little bit as far as getting the word out about what's happening in the tech world. Welcome, if you haven't been exposed to this kind of thing, welcome to the new reality. This is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. And my impression of it is that the people behind it are sincere, and I think that they want to help everyone, not just a selected few, not just the elite. They are looking at ways to extend technology to everyone, and we're right on the very cusp of it. This is 21st century technology. These are the leaders in their field, and these are the people that you're going to be hearing about in the news in years to come. Thank you very much. This is David Dillard, the Crypto Consultant, signing out.